Good morning, everyone. This is Wanda, and today I will share with you my project about Native American identity through blood quantum. The aim of the project is to develop a genre analysis-centered synthesis from two nonfiction texts. As you can see, the materials are the nonfiction essay I Am Not Pocahontas by Elisa Washuta and the BBC's news article Blood Quantum Influences Native American Identity by Paul Adams. Therefore, the texts will be examined through the lens of critical discourse analysis, or CDA, and macrostructure. To provide context, the texts regard the usage of blood quantum to determine Native American identity. On the one hand, Washuta's paper is a critical review of Native American identity through the 90s Hollywood stereotypical Indian and the use of blood quantum as a criterion for tribe membership. On the other hand, Adam does a brief historical review of the blood quantum policies. The thesis for the work is that the work's macrostructure meets the subgenre standards and the CDAs show substantial differences in terms of the meso and micro analysis. To begin with, blood quantum is a strategy used by the US government and the tribes to authenticate the amount of native blood someone has by tracing their individual but also their group ancestry. The term was first employed by the federal government in 1887 to limit native citizenship and reduce Indian holding of land. The next century, thanks to the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934, the indigenous tribes were granted the authority to establish their own enrollment qualifications. But even today, a person must be enrolled to be federally considered as Native American, and many tribes continue to use the blood quantum criterion, so the possibility to acquire federal membership is decreasing. The CDA analysis splits into three parts: macro, meso, and micro. Regarding the macro analysis, it was found that both texts provide a relevant context of the current blood quantum issue. Specifically, while Washuta develops a note on her blood quantum questioning how much Indian is she, Adam writes an informative article concerning the origins and the current use of blood quantum. About the meso-analysis, it was noted that the essay's author is a Native American Cowlitz, who is also a specialist on creative writing, whereas the news article was written by a Lebanese journalist who works for the BBC. Also, it was noticed that the texts share the same intended audience, English speakers who are interested in Native American cultures. These findings are relevant and interesting because the data reveals the author's level of proximity with the topic. For example, Washuta has a first-hand experience and knowledge on the issue because she's Native American. Also, the information can indicate possible bias. For example, Adam's analysis might be left-centered biased as he works for the BBC. Now, in terms of the microanalysis, it is highlighted that the essay indicates Native American identity its whole, so we cannot be measured by blood quantum. Besides, the author reflects on the way Hollywood Indian movies dismiss Native American people and make them less legitimate if they are mixed. About the linguistic features, Washuta employs primarily active voice to show her presence and to point out the effects of the films on the laws of blood quantum. She also uses naming, especially collective nouns like British settlers, non-Indians, and Native Americans, but only after describing and mentioning historical events. On the other hand, the news article shares that using blood quantum to determine or measure Native American identity is way too complex and that keeping that kind of system will lead to extinction. In his paper, Adam employs passive voice to be neutral and factual, and he also uses collective nouns like other Native Americans, others, and the older generations. And those words are used for generalization and to accompany indirect quotation. Okay, so far, in this point, it is highlighted that the CDA is addressed in ways that are specific to the text genre. For example, as nonfiction works, they are veracious and informative of the blood quantum topic in this case. Nonetheless, depending on each subgenre, Their texts differ in some traits. For instance, as the essay is part of the creative nonfiction subgenre, this approach is more literary and self-focused than the article, which has a more concrete and straightforward approach. Moving on to the macrostructure, it is noted that the organization of the text is different. In short, the article is divided into two subheadings while the essay does not have any. Besides, the essay shows more flexibility of the form in contrast to the article. The former displays more images and presents a greater variety of the paragraph's length than the latter. Those distinctions are, of course, expected because the papers belong to different specific nonfiction subgenres. For example, the essay complies with the stereotypical flexibility of the form, and the article is structured following the typical division of a piece of news. It contains a headline, a byline, a lead paragraph, a section for explanation, and another for additional information. In a nutshell, the major findings were that the macrostructure resulted as expected. Each work follows its subgenre's typical format. The essay includes personal presence, self-discovery, and flexibility of the form, while the article shows a typical macrostructure of its subgenre and employs mainly the passive voice. Also, the CDA showed similarities between the macroanalysis, as they both provide optimal context on the topic, and differences regarding the meso and microanalysis, remembering that the authors have different ethnic and work backgrounds and that they use differently the linguistic features. Finally, based on the previous findings, it can be deduced that personal experience with the topic and the employed format condition the depth of ideas concerning Native American identity. This is shown by the greater number of thought-provoking questions concerning race, identity, and stereotypes within the essay in contrast to the article. While Washington's ethnicity and flexibility of the essay's form allowed her to expand the ideas, the lack of Adams' first-hand knowledge and the concrete news article format limited his contribution to the topic. These are the references, and thank you for watching.